Hey guys, how's it going? So I hope you're having a good day today, and I hope all is going well with you. I'm recording this on an unusually warm March day. It's 72 degrees in middle March, which for Ohio, that is very uncommon. But I suspect we're going to have some thunderstorms later on this evening, so we shall see. So for today's video, we're going to do another radio story. And for today's radio story, I'm going to talk about Classic Soul 105.1, 105.1, The Groove in Detroit, and sort of the beginnings of the jammin' oldies format and kind of what it was. So this is going to date back to 1998 and we'll move into 1999. So back in 1998, a new radio format was starting to be developed, and it was called Jammin' Oldies, and it was like a mix of 70s disco, 70s funk, not punk, but funk, Motown, some 60s pop hits, and some 80s pop hits, mainly urban-based pop hits. And core artists of this format would include like Shaka Khan, Sister Sledge, like the Four Tops, Smokey Robinson, Aretha Franklin, kind of Wild Cherry, kind of stuff like that. And the format was starting to be rolled out about mid to late 1998. One notable station that flipped to jammin' oldies was 103.5 in Chicago, which had a rock format for many years. And the station was killed off for jammin' oldies. And on a side note, I've heard the change. And they were playing Metallica's Sad But True, and it just kind of faded out right into the new format, which was jammin' 103.5. But anyway, this format appeared in Chicago. It appeared in New York City. It appeared in Los Angeles. So it was just a matter of time before this format was going to start spreading nationwide. So, two broadcasters that were at the forefront of this format was AM/FM radio, which AM/FM was actually the name of the company, and Chancellor Media. Now, both those companies were eventually swallowed up by Clear Channel Communications. So anyway, there seemed to be, it seemed to be that a format like this would do well in Detroit and would do well in places like Philadelphia and a few other places. So in the Detroit area, a rumor had started that this format was going to be coming to Detroit. But the rumor was that the format was coming to 106.7 FM, which was W4 Country at the time. W4 Country did okay in the ratings, but the ratings had started to slip in recent years. In the early 90s, W4 was actually one of the top-rated stations in Detroit. Then they got competition when 99.5 flipped to country in mid-1993. And while 99.5 never beat W4 Country, they were hot on their heels, and they were doing extremely well. And 99.5, which was known as Young Country, 99.5 at the time, was taking a good share of their audience, especially from the 18 to 34 age group. So AM/FM radio, the owners of 106.7 FM at the time, was considering taking the station in another direction. So it's said, and I cannot back this up, but it's rumored that they were getting ready to flip 106.7, that they were starting to in the first stages, they were like in the first stages of putting together a new format, and it was going to be called Jammin' 106.7. And it was probably about geared to launch maybe about late spring of 1999. Well, something happened. Greater Media beat them to it. They flipped their low-rated 105.1 The Edge to Jammin' Oldies on Easter Sunday, 1999, April 4th to be exact. And which caught everybody totally off guard. Now, the Edge had been struggling in the ratings for a time. Ever since their launch, they were in the mid to low ones. And Detroit already had too many rock stations. They had 88.7 from Windsor, Ontario, 94.7 WCSX, 93.9 The River, 101 WRIF, Planet 96.3, which had a modern AC format at the time, 102.7 The Bear, which was on a rim shot signal out of Mount Clemens, Michigan, and 97.1 K-Rock, then 97.1 Extreme Radio, and which eventually evolved into a hot talk format during early 1999. Well, so the Edge was kind of the odd man out. So they abruptly flipped the Edge after only being 16 months on the air to Classic Soul 105.1. And Classic Soul 105.1's playlist was like a lot of times when they launch a new format, the playlist is kind of tight at first, kind of to give you the taste of like what the station's kind of going to be. So I remember hearing this station on the first day that they launched. And because I listened to 105.1 The Edge a lot at the time, I remember in my car turning on the radio, and they were playing the Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody. Now, I mainly listened to the radio in my car because that's all I had. I just had an AM/FM radio. This would have been in my first car. And, you know, it didn't have CD or any of the other modern technologies that we have today. It was just you listen to the radio, and that's all it was. But they were playing the Righteous Brothers, Volat by Julian Lennon, which I thought was kind of an odd choice, Shaka Khan, I Feel For You, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance With Somebody. Let's see. Some of the others would be Smokey Robinson, Tears of a Clown. Let's see. Freeway of Love by Aretha Franklin, and there were a few other Motown artists and couple artists like that. So like I said, it was kind of a mix of like 60s Motown, 70s funk, 70s urban music, and some 80s based urban music. So Classic Soul 105.1 ran jockless for about 6 weeks or so. And then some hosts started to appear on the station. And after the host kind of appeared, the playlist kind of expanded a little bit. And they started playing some more artists. I mean, I remember they were playing YMCA by the Village People. And I remember at the time I kind of got a good laugh out of that one. But the playlist remained fairly stable. Another one that I remember was Pebbles' Mercedes Boy. And this, the station's ratings started to improve. By summer of 1999, when the first ratings book came out for the new format, the station had shot up to the mid-2s, which was a vast improvement over 105.1 The Edge. Well, in late summer, early fall of 1999, the station decided to launch a contest to give the station a proper name, because the name Classic Soul 105.1 was kind of generic. And on a side note, in a couple of other markets, they did this as well. So the station's ratings were stable, and they had brought in some notable Detroit radio veterans, or at least part-time. I believe Charlie O'Brien was actually on Classic Soul 105.1 for a time. Now, this kind of leads me back to the contest. So there was a contest held, and the winner of the contest picked The Groove. as the new format name. And I believe the person who won the contest won a great deal of money. They won quite a bit. I don't know if it was $50,000, but it was pretty darn close to that. So the new name was The Groove, and they changed the call letters from WXDG, which XDG stood for the edge, and I always thought those call letters had kind of a nice ring to them, and they became WGRV-FM. And because because there was another AM station that used the WGRV call letters in North Carolina, so they became WGRV-FM. And as we got into 2000, the ratings remained steady, but the ratings started to slip a little bit. So what they started doing was they started adding some 80s pop music to the playlist. Like they started adding Hall & Oates. I remember hearing Paula Abdul. Like I said, Pebbles, and Sly. I think they played Sly Fox a couple times, and some more artists like that. Jermaine Stewart, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, kind of stuff like that. And at this time, like in Detroit and in a lot of other radio markets that had the jammin' oldies format, the format was starting to burn itself out because the format was a bit of a novelty at first. It was like a new thing on the radio, and they're like, oh, this is cool. And it's kind of one of those things where, you know, the first time you hear it, you're blown away. The second time, it's cool, but you kind of heard it before. And like the third time, you're kind of like, this is kind of old, this is kind of passé. And the ratings started slipping at this time. And they tightened up the playlist. And it got really repetitive. So nationwide, this format was starting to burn itself out, and it wasn't, so the groove wasn't long for Detroit radio. And then in late June of 2001, they decided to flip the station to an adult contemporary format, which after the groove was popular for many, many years. And then Detroit Sports, which I did a video on Detroit Sports 105.1, and what a cluster mess that was. And then they returned to an urban format as The Bounce, which they are still known for today. So the jammin' oldies format was kind of neat, but it was one of those formats you knew it was going to burn itself out, like the all 80s format. That kind of was the next kind of ice cream flavor of the month, so to speak. It kind of burned itself out too. So what do you guys think? Did any of you listen to Classic Soul 105.1 or 105.1 The Groove? Let me know. So that concludes this story. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And as always, guys, have a great rest of your day.